then I have peace and safety. What are we going to see about these two prophecies and how it relates to us this very day? How does this come alive? Where are we in the pages of the book? And so I'm going to start with Isaiah chapter 66, verse 1, then followed by chapter 66, verse 8 through 15. Verse 1, thus said Yahweh, the heavens are my throne and the earth is my footstool. Where is this house that you built for me? And where is this place of my rest? Before she labored, she gave birth. Before a pain came to her, she was delivered of a male child. Verse 1 is very important to understand that this is the birth of Messiah. But through Isaiah, this was spoken long before it happened. Hundreds of years before it happened. And so for us today, we believe verse 1 did take place. Let me go back to it. Thus said Yahweh, the heavens are my throne, the earth is my footstool. Where is this house that you built for me? So the temple is not even built yet. By Solomon, son of David. So that kind of tells you this is hundreds of years in prophecy, because if we go back to David, we got more than 1,000 years already. Before she labored, she gave birth. Before a pain came to her, she was delivered of a male child. Now, that is not Israel. That is Yeshua. Yahusha. This is the Messiah. So we can move past verse 8. Who has heard the likes of this? Who has seen the likes of these? Is a land brought forth in one day? Is a nation born at once? For as soon as Zion labored, she gave birth to her children. Now notice, we have children, male child, singular, children, plural. Now we have the kingdom that is being brought forth. Shall I bring to birth and not to deliver? Says Yahweh. Shall I give deliverance or delivery? Restrain birth? Said your Elohim. Rejoice with Jerusalem and be glad with her. All you who love her, rejoice greatly with her. All you who mourn for her, so that you feed and shall be satisfied with the breast of her comfort, so that you drink deeply and shall delight yourself in her overflowing esteem. For thus said Yahweh, see, I am extending peace. There's a special message there, to her like a river, and the esteem of the nations like a flowing stream. And you shall feed, you shall be carried on the side, and be fondled on her knees. As one whom his mother comforts, so I comfort you. And in Jerusalem you are comforted, and you shall see, and your heart shall rejoice, and your bones flourish as tender grass. And the hand of Yahweh shall be known to his servants, and his displeasure to his enemies. For look, Yahweh comes with fire and with his chariots, like a whirlwind, to render his displeasure with burning, and his rebuke with fire, flames of fire. So what we're looking at is the birth of Yeshua, That was 2,000 years plus ago. Then the birth of the kingdom of Israel, once again in the earth, and not that they're being born for the first time, but in 1948, a major timeline, we do have to recognize, and I will bring scripture that verifies this. Matter of fact, I'm at one now where it says, verse 8, who has heard the second bullet? Who has heard the likes of this? Who has seen the likes of these? Is a nation brought forth in one day? So was that fulfilled? Yes, in 1948. It was recognized worldwide. Worldwide. Long before I was born. My parents were 8 and 10. My father was born in 1938. Mother was born in 1940. So they were 8 and 10-year-old. I wasn't even in the picture. So 1948, 78 years ago this year. So if you're below, which I would say we're all below that period, this particular generation, there's a lot of prophecy that's talking about this generation. Matthew chapter 24 will not pass until all be done. So there's a little bit more I could go into to help you understand that when he starts speaking of a generation, let me just explain. A generation, according to Psalms chapter 110, a generation is 70. That's 70. Score, 20. 60. 10, 70. Then it says, and with strength, 80. So Yahweh is speaking to those who have ears to hear, eyes to see. It's a little coded there, what he's saying to us, but he's being very direct in time and understanding. I'm not going to go into that right now. That's very, very direct. So, but anyway, and for those who are thinkers, I've already said more than I wanted to say. But anyway, he's saying, shall I bring to birth and not give deliver? So if they were born in 1948, a little more explanation. Who was actually born in 1948 from Adam? Like I told you, we have to go way back to really understand. 1948 was Abraham, according to all of the begats, the generations of fathers and sons. So if you go back to Genesis, you start with Cain and Abel, you wipe them out because Abel was killed off by his older brother Cain. And so now we have to go to Seth. And in that day, Adam, I hope I didn't say Abraham, but Adam was 130 years old and begat Seth. And they gave thanks for that time period. And so now we have to use that and follow the next 20 generations, and you get the exact age of Abraham when he was born to his father, Terah. All right, now I'm going to leave that quickly. I don't want to get stuck there. But the land was also granted as a gift to Abraham. So when was he born? 1948 from Adam. But then there's something else we have to travel forward about another 70 years. I'll get there in a few minutes, but so that you know, since I'm here, I'm just kind of explaining how we get here. And so a promise was given to Father Abraham that he would have children. His wife was barren. And after the promise of having children, he said, I'm going to give them land. And so now we got the age 75 where he's got this promise of multiplicity, both children and land, moving forward. I apologize if I'm just throwing it out there, but I'm just kind of showing you how we're tracking. All right, so he says something. Rejoice with Jerusalem and be glad with her. All you who love her, rejoice greatly with her. All you who mourn for her, so that you feed and shall be satisfied with the breast of her comfort, so that you drink deeply. This is not surface, okay? If y'all will allow me, I'm going to leave here because I can stay right here the whole time. But I got a little bit more I want you to see. So let's talk about the kingdom. No longer, we were taught, our Father who art in heaven, right? Thy kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven, right? We was taught how to pray that. Now, it's no longer thy kingdom come. The kingdom is here. And so with the proof that I'm going to show forward, I will prove that Isaiah 66, verse 16 through 21, that we are in the midst of this already. Verse 16, for by fire and by his sword Yahweh shall judge all flesh. And the slain of Yahweh shall be many, those who set themselves apart and cleanse themselves at the gardens after one in the midst, eating flesh of pigs, and the abominations and the mouse are snatched away together, declares Yahweh. And I, because of their works and their imaginations, am coming to gather all nations and tongues, and they shall come and see my esteem. And I shall set a sign among them, and shall send some of those who escape to the nations, Tarshish, Pul, Lud, who draw the bow, and Tubal and Bond, of Yavan. The coastlands are far off, who have not heard my report nor my esteem. And they shall declare my esteem among the nations, and they shall bring all your brothers as far as an offering, shall bring all your brothers as an offering to Yahweh out of all the nations, on horses, chariots, and in the litters, mules, or camels, to my set-apart mountain, Jerusalem, declares Yahweh, as the children of Israel brings an offering in a clean vessel into the house of Yahweh, and from them too I shall take for priests the Levites, declares Yahweh. There is so much here, but let me condense. Going from the top, for by fire and the sword. We see that going on now, not to the degree when the Messiah comes, but we do see war and conversations of war. Matthew chapter 24, when you see all these, and he gives a list of about Matthew chapter 24, he gives a list of about 6 different things. And remember in there he says, do not be deceived. He's also saying, many will come in my name and lead many astray. Okay, so I'm just kind of throwing these scriptures out so you can see where I'm connection. I pretty much never leave the scriptures. I pretty much stay within the pages. Even if I'm quoted, I'm making a connection so that we can see it agrees with what we may have read. Yahweh shall judge all flesh. So who's going to be left out? No one. No one. Not even Israel. Israel has to go through as well. And the judgment that Israel will go through will be worse than some of his brothers. Why? Because there's 5 foolish, and there's 5 wise. Only half of Israel is going to make it this time. At the original, prefacing the original, it's not the original, but in our generation. This is going to be the gathering, the first gathering after thousands of years, over a few thousand of years, the first time they've all been together in one place. This is all 12 tribes. According to Matthew chapter 25, The kingdom of heaven shall be as 10 virgins, 5 are foolish, 5 are wise. And you know that the wise go at midnight, the door is closed, and the foolish, where did they go? They went out to buy oil. Why? Because they did not keep the command. Keeping the Sabbath, gathering for the Sabbath. All of these things, to whom much is given, much is required, right? So if you know who you are and what you're supposed to be doing and you don't, you will be beaten with many more stripes. So in this, I conclude that those 5 foolish will be left on the outside where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth, where the dogs are. Now, let's not discount the word dog, because the word dog in Hebrew means fish. A different spelling, D-A-G-H, dog. But it means in Hebrew, fish. So there's some fish that are going to be out among the goyim. Who do you think will gather the goyim and lead them the next time? It's got to be the foolish. By reason of deduction, they're the ones who were stuck out there with them. Because the wise, the door closed as soon as they went in, leaving, moving forward. So we have to eat according to Leviticus chapter 11. Eating pork is not on the menu for us. It is the abomination. Eating mice or rats, they are the ones that are snatched away. Well, I thought in the rapture theory, those who are raptured out are the ones that are going back with the Father, not according to this. This says, and I'll read it, so just in case I make a mistake, those who set themselves apart and cleanse themselves at the garden after one in the midst, eating flesh of pigs, and the abomination and the mouse are snatched away. They're the ones who are snatched away. The abomination. Those who are not eating according to Leviticus chapter 23. Leviticus chapter 11. That is our dietary do's and don'ts. All right, continuing. There's a time that he says, because of their works, their imaginations, I am coming together to gather all the nations and tongues, and they shall come to see my esteem. How do you see Yahweh's esteem? Yahweh's esteem was seen before, the word that became flesh. And so, because Yahweh, let's just face it, the great I am, the creator, he's invisible. He is invisible. But to see him, he has to be visible. And so, these are, and I shall set a sign among them, and shall send some of those who escaped to the nations. So this will be the time when the wise can come back out to general population, and he will send them out to the nations and to reclaim those who are now ready to hear. And the foolish will recognize them because they're all from the same tribes. Let me make this very clear. Y'all know Revelation talks about 144,000, right? From all the 12 tribes, 12 of Reuben, 12 of Gad, Issachar, 12 of each, right? You can take 12 tribes, one from each, and you still have a complete package of all 12. So now, I'm saying take 5 tribes, they represent all 12, because in that 5, you have a representation, even if you only took one from each tribe. So clearly we can get 12 into that 144,000. But does it stop there? No, because you're on in Revelation now. Revelation 7, Revelation 14, it says, and There shall be representation of all 12 tribes, and when they are flown on the wings, Revelation chapter 12, when they are flown on the wings, we're going to get to this woman. They all will have representation, and at some point they will then be represented back among the nations to regather. And so those who are their sisters and brothers definitely will recognize them. And he says, from them too I shall take for priests. Well, you have to be born a priest. He's not going to take from the nations and just say, you are a Levitical priest. You have to be born through the bloodline of Levi, period. I shall take for a priest, for Levi. So how can that be? We're all connected in that way. If you are a firstborn, I know these two are firstborns. So they are a part of, and this is how I teach, to know who you are. They are part of a priesthood of Levitical priests. There's 3 divisions that most of us may not be familiar with. We might just understand that one division of priests from the lineage of the 3rd tribe, or Levi. But there's also the firstborn. There's also Aaron. Firstborn, Aaron, and then, now firstborn, I know Melchizedek. He's firstborn. And then there's Yeshua, who's also born of Melchizedek and not Aaron. So now we have the firstborn through the lineage of Yeshua, because he's of the priesthood that has no beginning and no end. Now, I know I just threw Melchizedek in there, right? So I'm going to leave that because I don't want to get stuck here. So I just wanted to make sure that you can kind of track where I'm going. So I'm going to bring us up to modern time now and just begin to show you some technology, and I'm going to look at some heaven witnesses, okay? This is a software that, to explain, you have time and date, as you can see on your right, yes. 2013, the month would be March, date 14th. Then you have the hours, minutes, and seconds. And this is how we use this software to look into the heavens. We have technology now that we can look into the heavens and understand things. So if he says, I give you signs in both heaven and in earth, why can't we also look at the heavens? So as we move through, I'm just going to kind of walk you through that. If you are familiar with constellations, this is a constellation with an imaginary images that kind of give us names of certain constellations or star gatherings. And if you see here, Virgo would be our woman. We're going to look closer at her. And then we have Leo, which is up ahead of her. And we're going to look at Revelation as it pertains to what we're looking at. Right now, we are not actually there, but this year in particular is 2016. Very important things that took place during that time. But I'm going to forego all of that because I got to get you to the rest of this. The month, yes. It is, and of course, it is horoscopes. It's not. That's the perverted version. But stars, according to Genesis chapter 1, verse 14, he says, I put both the stars, the moon, sun and moon stars, for times and seasons. So we can tell seasons through the astronomical movement of the earth and the patterns of the sun, moon, and stars. So, and I'm gonna get to questions right after, no, it was quite fine. Because you don't know that we do open up for questions, so that would be our midrash area, so we'll get there in just a few minutes. And so the year is 2016, the month is October the 22nd day, the 7th hour, the 21st minute, 32 minutes into time evaluation. So in order to understand this, another look at how the constellation and the imagination of man, this is all man. But so that we can make sense, we can use, because if we were to go outside at night and say, that constellation is, some people understand that. I'm not that good. So I'm kind of going to take away everything else, and we're just going to zone in on Revelation chapter 12 and look at the sign that appears in heaven. Now, how can you know from the earth that this sign is even to happen or it has happened? You can't prove it unless you go to the heavens and look. And you have to have a scientific, first of all, a scientific mind to understand this, then a scientific mind to explain this. And so astrologers, and there's another one close to astrology, astronomy, thank you. So yes, we have to be careful with that, because it goes into perversion big time. But what signs we can then understand. So we're going to look at this woman, and in particular, I want you to look at this 42-week period here. This is representing, let me start with the lion. So we have the lion, Leo, and we have several planets. And we're going to see where the 12 stars in the lion position. Then the woman who is dressed, clothed in the moon, the sun, the moon here, Jupiter here. Jupiter represents the king, the kingly planet. According to science, we were taught that Jupiter was the largest planet. Something happened at a particular time. I'm going to show it to you. That it is just as the time of a woman's, the full cycle from pregnancy to the time of birth. And so what we see as the lion, it goes from 12 stars to 9 stars, and then something happened with the other 3 that they're here, and then there's a movement of these planets that comes here at the time of, and I'm going to use words that I'm not sure I use correctly, but there's a gestation period where the woman is going through all of the different cycles of birth. And then I'm going to skip right on to the time of pain, because I know I'm going to mess up in all of those pieces. But if I was to go through them, and I have taught on this some time ago, it's been years ago, but there's a 33-week period of time that the woman is going through certain developments, the baby is going through certain developments. You see that in the birth of a child. But the same thing has gone through with these planetary movements. So I'm just going to get right to the birthing part. They all come down and gather up here. And in the time where she's moving and dilating, they all gather, and all of a sudden, boom, the birth takes place, which is a phenomenon that took place in heaven. We missed it if we didn't see it. But it's a sign and a witness to those who see. So we're going to look more into this. So a little bit on the date and the time that I'm bringing us to. And so what you can see now, if you can imagine the woman still here, here is her head, her shoulder here. Here is the birthing canal. There's a 42-week of something taking place. And then here is where the birth takes place. So a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clad or dressed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. She was pregnant and was crying out in birth pains and the agony of giving birth. So that's Revelation chapter 12, verse 1 and 2. And so I'm going to cue in on a date of September 23rd, 2017. So now I'm into a particular year that I'm bringing you into focus of how did we get to where we are now, where we have a president who was president during that time, but could not remain, but he comes back again as president. It wasn't 2 consecutive terms. How did he get there? How is it that his name is Trump? And his vice president was Pence. The Trump-Pence were sounding. And it didn't stop. It only continued. You know that he was with all his might trying to get that term, that second term. And someone else actually won, but some things happened and it was determined that he didn't get it. But then he came back even after what he did. Insurrection, what he went through, who else can get through that if he wasn't supposed to? He was actually supposed to, because what he is ushering in, he has to be in the seat of authority in order to continue these trumpets. Revelation. So we're going to look at Revelation verse 1 through 6. We're going to stay with chapter 12. And I'm going to show you that the time is still ahead of us just a bit, but not very much. Not very much at all. I'm just going to be straight with you. We're less than 5 years out. Okay? We're way less than 5 years. Something that I'll show you with Abraham, which is why the scripture says, look to your father Abraham. Because once you begin to magnify and look at Abraham's life and his movement, it wasn't for no reason. There is a reason that all of that took place. Even his wife being taken, Sarah, right? All of this was for a reason. We have to recognize the pattern, because the pattern gives witness to what we are seeing and will see. Moving on. And a great sign was seen in the heaven, a woman clad with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. And being pregnant, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth. And another sign was seen in the heaven. And see, a great fiery red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns. I'm hoping this reminds you of Daniel. I'm not going to go into it, but here it is. And 7 crowns on his head. And his tail draws a third of the stars of the heavens and thrown them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth to devour her child. Singular, that's Yeshua, that's not children. As soon as it was born, and she bore a male child, who was to shepherd all nations, plural. So if he's going to shepherd all nations, guess who's going with him? Those who were hidden and escaped. And she bore a male child who was to shepherd all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught away to Elohim and to his throne, and the woman fled into the wilderness where she has a place prepared by Elohim to be nurtured there 1,260 days. Now there's 3 divisions of this. I'm not going to go into each one, but there's 1,260, followed by 1,290, followed by 1,335. Each one is to a particular people. The 2 witnesses will be cut off on day 1260. In other words, they will exist in the earth, and not just for 1,260 days, which is by lunar calendar 3.5 or 3.5 years. And from there, now you got Satan, who will then be defeated. So he has to defeat the 2 witnesses. They die, lay in the streets of Jerusalem, and then Yahweh opens the heavens up, and he says, come up here. And then those who are near will see their bodies after 3.5 days laid in the streets of Jerusalem, dead, will be raised, and then they will go into eternity. But from the time that they lived several thousands of years ago, they have never seen death. Elijah and Enoch, who was taken up both by whirlwind. I'm not going to go into that. I'm telling y'all, every place I go is loaded with a whole lot. So I'm kind of keeping myself disciplined and just kind of throwing it out there. So a third was thrown of the stars. Remember, there was 12 stars, right? But a third of the stars are thrown down to the earth. The dragon is coming after the woman who's giving birth to the male child, which is Yeshua. This is his second return. This is not when he came the first time. Because, number one, this is Revelation. And remember, this revelation is about Yeshua. It is prophecy. And so, this is his return. And being his return, and she bore a male child who was to shepherd all nations. He didn't do that the first time. He really didn't even shepherd Israel. He announced he was the king and they wanted to put him to death. So they did. So he comes back to complete the good work that he had begun in us. All right, so the wise will be hidden for that period of time and beyond. They have to be hidden for 1,335 days before they come back out into general circulation. Why so long? Because that is the 7th trumpet, the 7th bowl. When that one is poured out, we can't be out here. The fact that we are here now, this has not been completed. Because when the 7th trumpet blows, we have already gone. If you're familiar with Jubilee, they always go before the 7th year. When do they go? They go in the 6th year, the 7th month. Well, what is significant about the 6th year? It comes before the 7th year, but it's just before. It's like 5 months before it. So at the beginning of the 6th year, they still remain circulation. Now, I just gave y'all something really potent, really direct to a timeline. Not going to go into it to explain it all, just kind of enough to just kind of let you know that I've been doing this for a while. So what happens in the 7th month of every year? It doesn't matter what year it is. The 7th month of every year, we leave. We go away to Sukkot. What's important about that? Those who study the feast days of Leviticus chapter 23, you know you pack your bags and food, enough for 10 days at least, because you go away for that 8-day period, which is mandatory by the scripture, and then you have 2 weekends that can intervene either in the beginning or on both ends. Sometimes it happens on both ends. So it has been that way. But more common, 9 to 10 days. 9 days is very common. So that's every year. This year coming, where will we be in the 7th month? At Sukkot. Wherever we end up, we have food, we have clothes, we have provision. So what happens if Yahweh comes during that time? He will stretch whatever we have, and it will last, because he will be the provision. But because of obedience, we do it every year. So that the year, not just a year of practice, when the year takes place, we've been doing it so long, we're ready. Everyone else who don't practice that, they have to try to figure things out. But this is why it's important to do Leviticus chapter 23, because it tells you there's 3 times, and I'm going to read this, 3 times of a pilgrimage: Passover, Shavuot, which is Pentecost, and then Sukkot, or Tabernacles. Those are 3 pilgrimages. But I'll get to a scripture that shows us a little bit of light on that last one. So again, if we can now go back to the image so that we can kind of remember. I want to go back to what happened September 23rd, 2017. In the sky is this imagery. And as this star alignment, constellation alignment, is visible not to the naked eye, you have to be looking for this. You have to look up there. Either you're in science or you're in prophecy. Whichever you're in, you can be in prophecy and science. It doesn't matter. If you look up, this is telling us something, and this is the scripture. Let me throw the scripture in there. No man knows the day nor the hour, the coming of the Son of Man. He's pointing to this. But how many people know that? How many people can relate to this? You will be today once I show this to you. You may already know this, but for those who don't, that's who I want to show this to. How does this relate? Okay, so Leo, it is the 12 stars. And so I've gone around and counted and made sure I knew that these are points. Here, 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 here. Every place that there is a point. That is a planet. And the line shifts until it gets to the next planet. Then the line shifts till it gets to the next planet. So Leo represents symbolically King Lion, right? King of the jungle, lion. We have the woman, they call her Virgo. At some period along this period of time, they all made their way here, and they're all in the birthing canal, waiting, and the moon is at her feet, clothed in the sun. And so all of this took place in the heavens. And again, with an imaginary image. But these are the constellations, the stars, and where they are setting. You take me outside and look up, and I can recognize some things, the Little Dipper, the Big Dipper, some things, but I'm not that great on it, so this helps me. So in other words, this is a software that I learned years ago. I can go backwards in time and forwards in time. Just plug in the date, and those are the dates that I was showing you, that these dates are plugged in. How will the sky look? Matter of fact, y'all may be able to see it, and right above your head is the sky during my birth. Our daughter, who is also a very deep thinker, she gave me this as a birthday present on one of these years. I can't see what year it was, but I will be 66 next month. So this is a birthday present of one of those years where she gave me, oh, I know, did somebody say 1960? Okay, that is correct. I just thought of it as well. It was my birth year. She said, this is how the sky looked when you were born. And this is our baby girl. She is 30. I'm giving you all these numbers. She is 37. 37. We have two. Our son, 45. Then there's two grandchildren, he and his wife. But I connect to numbers, in other words. So I get a chance to look at something that connects me to something that I've already been teaching on, and my daughter gives me this kind of gift. So let's look at the significance of that. Revelation chapter 12, verse 7 through 11. We're going to look at Michael, his role, the birth, and the new reign of the kingdom. And there came to be fighting in heaven. Michael and his messengers fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his messengers fought. But they were not strong enough, nor was a place found for them in the heaven any longer. And the great dragon was thrown out, that serpent of old, called the devil and Satan, who leads all the world astray. He was thrown to the earth, and his messengers were thrown out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now has come the deliverance and the power and the reign of our Elohim and the authority of his Messiah, for the accuser of the brothers and the accused who accused them before our Elohim day and night has been thrown down, and they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and because of the word of their witness, and they did not love their lives to death. And so, making sense of all this, some people teach that there was a major battle in heaven, and Satan was thrown out, him and all of his imps. And that didn't happen yet. And I have to preference that, because if it did, it says, and who's speaking? let's see, let me go to, okay, let me go here. And now have come the deliverance of the power and the reign of our Elohim and the authority of his Messiah. So this has not happened yet because we have not been gathered as a total gathering of all 12 tribes. This has not happened. Who led all the world astray, he was thrown down to the earth, his messengers who were thrown out with him, and I heard a loud voice saying in heaven. Now who else can say this in heaven? Only one, because notice, that heaven right there is singular. That means the ultimate throne room. Notice there's heavens where the messengers or angels can go and be with Elohim. But there is heaven that is singular where only he resides. And so this is singular, the voice out of the heaven now. And what is he saying? Now. What is he saying? Emphatically, right now comes the deliverance. Unless this has already happened, then the fight has not already happened and could be the process that has probably just happened or about to just happen. So I'm just going to kind of leave it right there. So we have Michael and the others who stood up to fight against the dragon, Satan, devil. And notice, he cannot go back into heaven. But before this time, we see where he showed up with Job and the other sons of God. And they stood before the throne. And so he goes, where are you going? To and fro the earth to see whom I can devour. So that's not this time. So we know if this happened thousands of years ago, he would not be able to go back and forth into the heavens, seeking whom he can devour in the earth. This is a particular period of time. Verse 12 through 17, now we're going to look at this wise and foolish. Verse 12, Revelation 12, verse 12 through 17. Because of this, rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. So this is talking about the heavens. Who's in heaven? The messengers, the angels. Rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. Woe. Now this woe is singular. Another piece of message I have to kind of fly past. There's three woes that we have to also consider in all of this. There's woe, 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 which is another division of the trumpets and the bowls. And they are a message by themselves. But there's only one woe here. That's all I'm going to point out right now. To the earth, woe to the earth and the sea, because the devil has come down to you, having great wrath, knowing that he has little time. What little time? 3.5 years. And when the dragon saw that he had been thrown to the earth, he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child, Yeshua, Yahusha. And the woman was given 2 wings and a great eagle to fly into the wilderness to her place, where she is nurtured for time and times and half times from the presence of the serpent, and out of his mouth the serpent water like a river after the woman, to cause her to be swept away by the river. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up the river. Wow. Which the dragon had spewed out of his mouth. And the dragon was enraged with the woman, and he went to fight with the remnant of her seed, those guarding the commands of Elohim and the possessing the witness of Yeshua Messiah. So this has to be contemporary. This can't be Old Testament. This has to be, well, it's Revelation. So we know that this is after Yeshua's crucifixion and sometimes during their deliverance of Israel. So to kind of prove that, he's saying, he's speaking in heaven, rejoice. But those who are in the earth, he's saying, woe to the earth, to the sea. Why? Satan is coming down because he's been kicked out through this battle. Michael and the others fought them, and they wasn't strong enough to defeat Michael. But something is taking place. There's two images of Israel here. One is given wings, and the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle to fly into the wilderness to her place, where she is nurtured for times. So when you say times, the least value we can give that is 2. So time is 1. Times, that's 3. And half times, that's 3.5. So he's giving us an exact timeline. But unless you understand that he's talking about from the end to the time that we started, is a 3.5-year period that I'm pointing to. Because if you go back to the time of Yeshua's death, you get 3.5 years over and over. If you go back to Adam, you get 3.5 years over and over. He's not pointing to the beginning. He's pointing to the end and the time of the end. And so here is the other side. There's one part of the bride being put on wings of an eagle and taken to her place. Now let me explain the wings of an eagle. When they came out of Misraim, Egypt, how did they come? They came on wings of an eagle. But when you look at the detail, they walked, right? They had the camels, their mules, they had whatever transportation. So when he says wings of an eagle, it was on swift motion. So we'll look at that even a little closer, but I want to move from here. But I want to show you there's another group. The dragon had spewed out of his mouth. The dragon was enraged with the woman. So she's gone. This is the wise. They're gone. She was given 2 wings, and the dragon was enraged with the woman, and he spewed, and he went to fight with the remnant of her seed. That's the foolish. They were left out. And when they came back, why were they left out? Because they went. When the Sabbath came, they were out trying to get oil. Matthew chapter 25, right? So he went to fight with the remnant of her seed. The remnant of her seed are those who are left on the outside. So Satan now, he has a more than 3-year period to go after them. Not only them, but it's weeping and gnashing of teeth. Mark chapter 13, verse 14 through 18. And now I'm going to kind of give us a look into another piece of prophecy that was fulfilled very recently. We know that Scripture talks about peace and safety, then sudden destruction. And so I want to point to when that happened. Now, you may know, but for those who don't know that this took place, I'm going to point it out. This was during this Feast of Sukkot, and the very last day of 2023. What happened? Well, October 7th, 2023, is when the war began in Israel. They came in by sky, sea, and land. Landed on the beach at Jerusalem. There were many who were celebrating the very last day, called the ingathering. It's called the last great day, or the ingathering, or Sukkot, or tabernacle, so different names. It was the very last day. We were in the States celebrating the last great day. And I saw the news come in, newsflash on my phone. And I'm like, oh my goodness, it has happened. What has happened? Let me read. And when you see abomination that lays waste, spoken of by the prophet Daniel, or Daniel the prophet, set up where it should not be, he who reads, let him understand. Then let those who are in Yehuda flee to the mountains. And he who is on the housetop, let him not go down into the house, nor come to take whatever out of the house. And he who is in the field, let him not go back to get his cloak. And woe, singular, to those who are pregnant and to those nursing children in those days. And pray that your flight does not take place in winter. There's another scripture that says Sabbath or the winter. Let me explain that first. Why Sabbath? Why winter? Well, the last great day is a Sabbath. And the airplanes came in, or those who were on paragliders came in, landed, began to fire. And those who were celebrating the feast of Sukkot, Ashkenazi, in the land of Israel, they began to spray them with bullets. Those who they kept alive, 250. Those who they killed, 1,250. It was a great undertaking on that day. What did they not do? Let those who are in Yehuda flee to the mountains. They were in awe at what they were seeing. They saw them coming in, and this is something unusual. And as they stood trying to understand this image that is getting bigger and bigger, as they recognized these guys landed with guns and machetes and all kinds of things, and they began to execute their plan. That's where we see today's war going on. And we see Iran, the U.S., we see Russia, we see China, we see all the ones that are in war right now. Yahweh says, I will lower them to the mountains of Jerusalem, and in the valley of Jehoshaphat I will sit in judgment of all nations. So they have no clue. Everything that's going on has an end to it. Judgment. And when that takes place, Israel has to be out of harm's way. Because y'all know nuclear weaponry not only damages immediate places, but it has a long-range devastation. So you have 9 countries that have nuclear capacity. Not one of them is in Africa. Not one. Let me be correct, I'm sorry. Only one, which is in Jerusalem. They do, but they don't claim it. They would be in number 10. They do not claim to have nuclear weapons. But y'all know the US, Russia, all the different ones. I'm going to leave that. Okay, so they did not run And so they were caught in the crossfire. Many of them died. And woe to those who are pregnant in those days. Pray that your flight doesn't take place in winter. Why winter? There are no feast days in the winter. None. Sukkot is the last one. And so there is a time period of 5 months that your family may not even know you're missing. They just know you've gone to Sukkot somewhere. For, well, the last almost 25 years. My family know every year we leave and go to Sukkot. They don't take part in it because that's not their role. I'm first fruit of my family, but they watch. And so I've explained it to them years ago. But judgment is coming, whether you take place or not, take part or not, because judgment is coming for Israel. None of us get away, so to speak. The wise is hidden. I want to explain this, and then I'm going to leave here. There was something that I mentioned earlier about Abraham. In the year 2018, he was told to leave Haran. When you're reading this in the Bible, you don't recognize the year because it's not telling you until he gets to year 75 in the life of Abraham. But when he told him this, you will recognize this when I say it. Remember when he had to go and fight and get his nephew and all that they had, Lot, and their wives and all of them, and he took 318 men to fight? 3 plus 1 is 4, plus 8 is 12. Symbols of the 12 tribes, they weren't even born yet. Still in the loins of their fathers. So we got Abraham, Ishak, Isaac, and then Jacob. And then the 4th generation, the 12 sons. So they're not even born yet. They're not even in Egypt yet. Because this is still Abraham's time. So what about Genesis chapter 12, verse 1 through 4 is telling us about this. But once you get to chapter 4 and you see where he's now 75 years old, he is being told to leave. And here's the proof. He tells Abraham, he says, I'm going to give this land to your children's children. So I've gone from Genesis chapter 12 to the proof, which is Genesis chapter 15, verse 13. Know for certain, he's talking to Abraham, know for certain that your descendants will be enslaved and mistreated for 400 years. And in the 4th generation, I'm bringing in the 4th generation, not yet. Your descendants would be enslaved and mistreated for 400 years. Now, when did they come out of Egypt? 430. There's at least 3 references that puts them in Egypt coming out. Genesis, just so that I can prove it, Genesis chapter 12, verse 40. 430 years. Verse 41. Genesis, Galatians chapter 3. I think it's verse 17. So you have at least 3 witnesses. Truth is established at what? 2 or 3, right? Okay, so I'm going to leave that, and so I'll allow you to, check that out if you desire to. Joshua, the book of Joshua, a book of history, which is noted in Joshua and 1 Samuel, so two books, talks about things that is it not written in the book of Joshua. So this tells me and confirms that he was in Haran when he was told to leave your father's place, your place here. Now we know he was born in Ur of Chaldees, but then his father gave birth to some of the other family brothers in Haran. Remember, Haran is also a lineage that goes back to Noah, right? So I can connect all these, but I'm just going to keep driving forward. So now, he tells him to leave Haran. He left Haran and he went to Canaan, which is where he said, I will give this land to your seed. So now he leaves Haran. He says, now go back to Haran, and he is now at the age of 75 when he leaves and is told to leave Haran. So there's ways to prove this, but I just kind of connect two different things to kind of show you how I have tracked. Chapter 12, you have to deal with his father Terah's age at 70 when he's in Haran, giving birth, and then he dies at the age of 205. Then calculate that, see how old he was when he gave birth to Abraham. So it's a few twists and turns you got to do, but I just kind of gave it to you. So let's just look at the news that was taking place back in 2023. This is the war, October 7th, during the last great day. And so 2018, what is it? How does this tie in? So 2018, he was told to leave Haran, which was his 70th year. I'm not trying to confuse you, but I deal with numbers, okay? And so in order for me to stay on track, I have to keep reminding myself who I'm talking about, when and where they are. So don't worry about trying to, keep track. Sometimes I would have a marking board up here and I'll just be marking numbers so you can kind of track me that way. So don't get confused with these numbers. But 2018, he's 70 years old. 2018 AD from us, a few years ago. What is that? 7 years ago this year. He was told to leave. That's a parallel, 2,000 years from Adam to the time that Abraham is told to leave. Now, when does he leave? 5 years later from Haran. Well, what is that significance? I thought we were going to be gathered 2018. We were ready. We took 2 cars. We had a car load of stuff. I didn't tell everybody in the congregation, we're not coming back. We were just prepared. And a lot of our other people, when we talked about it, when we went back down the mountain, Tennessee mountain, I didn't think we were going home. And we've had these talks over the years. So there's years where I'll get certain parts and I'm like, I just need to be prepared. So what is the thing we must do? Keep the commands. We're not commanded to figure this out. But if you have an understanding and you're ready, you're ready. So 2018, we were ready, but we're still here. So I'm like, what is significant about 2023? So when 23 happened, October 7th, we're at Sukkot again, having the last great day, laughing, singing 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, doing karaoke, service is over, and we're just hanging out. And so, just in case, I didn't say where the restaurant was, just in case. So, right over there. But, and I'm actually about finished. So, when I saw this take place, another prophecy, bombings, war, and I'm like, man, things are happening. Mark 13, verse 19 through 23. For in those days there shall be distress, such as has not been from the beginning of creation, which Elohim created, until this time, nor ever shall be. And I'll tell you that if we will never go through this again, that has to be the end of something. And if the master had not shortened those days, not that he's bringing it short here, that when that 1335th day happens for Israel, when he brings them back out to general public, we enter into a time of peace and war no more for that 1,000-year period. Not that we will live for that 1,000 period. You can live almost 1,000 years. When that time period comes, you can live up to. I'm not saying we will. Let me use myself. I have the capacity to live to 999 years. This generation have not seen that. The promise is, I just can't live 1,000 years and beyond. In the day that man sins, he shall surely die. That has to be fulfilled. What is a day? 1,000 years as one day as 1,000 years. Okay, I'll believe it. So, if Yahweh doesn't bring this period to an end, no flesh will survive. See that you have been forewarned. The fig tree, there's some things here I'm going to skip past and I'm going to try to push us to the end. Verse 24 through 30, Yeshua and the fig tree. But in those days after the distress, the sun shall be darkened, the moon shall not give its light, the stars of heaven shall fall. And then they shall see the Son of Adam coming in the clouds with much power and esteem. They shall see his esteem. That's the visible esteem. And then he shall send his messengers and assemble his chosen ones from the four winds, from the furthest part of the earth to the furthest part of the heaven. And learn this parable from the fig tree. When its branches has already become tender and put forth leaves, you know that the summer is near. So you also, when you see these take place or taking place, know that it is near at the door. Truly I say to you, this generation shall by no means pass away till all takes place. When is a generation? 70. So when we get to that this generation that was born in 1948, that is the measure of time that we have to go by. Now, has Israel taken the line or the land in 1948? No. The land has been reclaimed in the name of Israel. Because Hosea chapter 6, verse 1, he says, I shall revive you in 2 days. How long ago since Yeshua's birth? 2 days. Then the second part of that same prophecy says, and then I shall stand you up as a mighty army. So, okay, let me explain this fig tree part. This covers the hidden Adam. Remember when Adam and Hava sinned in the garden and they hid behind the fig tree? Yeshua cursed the fig tree, and I'm moving forward again. He cursed the fig tree that wasn't in season, and they asked, why did you curse the fig tree? Or why did you speak over the fig tree? It withered up in front of their eyes. Well, it produced leaves, but there was no figs. And so he spoke against it. He was hungry, but that was the flesh giving witness. And so what he's doing is he's bringing this into subjection, that this fig tree and this leaf will never happen again. I am correcting what Adam and Hava has done in the garden. I'm running. I'm leaving this. There's more. I'm telling you, I can get stuck. Verse 31 through 37. And now we're going to look at the day. Well, it's there, so I'm just going to read. The heaven and the earth shall pass away, but the word shall by no means pass away. No one knows the day nor hour. But concerning that day and the hour no one knows, not even the messengers of heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. Take heed, watch and pray, for you do not know when the time is. As a man goes abroad, having left his house and given authority to his servants and to each his work, and commanded the doorkeeper to watch. Watch therefore, for you do not know when the master of the house is coming, in the evening or at midnight, or at the crowing of the cock, rooster, or in the morning, lest coming suddenly he should find you asleep. And what I say to you, I say to all, watch. Remember the example of Peter, when they all went after Passover, right? So now Passover is about to be fulfilled. They're asking him, where is he about to go that we can't go with him, right? So I'm condensing, I'm throwing some partial scriptures out, not even the full thing. But, he was washing their feet. Peter said, what you're doing, you should not do to me. If I do not, you will have no part with me in my Father's kingdom to come. So here we are now. So as we are looking, and they're now at the place where he's saying, watch. And he comes back out. Watch. Why don't I go and pray? He goes, he goes back and pray again. He comes back out and they're what? Asleep. He said, can you not watch with me 1 hour? So he's dropping hints to us all the time. He's pointing to the day no man knows. Well, how does this fulfill that description? He took away Yahweh took away all celebrations except for the 7 commands of Leviticus chapter 23 that we must do. What must we do? Gather. That's the first thing he says. Gather. Now, according to Malachi chapter 3, and I'm closing that now. Malachi chapter 3, he's saying, I'm going to leave that one. Just drew a blank. I'm going to leave that one. But Matthew's, when he's telling us the time of his return, and here in Mark, same thing, he's telling us when to watch. When should we watch? There's only one time of Leviticus chapter 23 that we watch. The significance is all feasts come in the middle of the month, except for one, which is the fall feast. What comes after fall? Winter. Pray that your escape does not come in the winter, right? Why? Because you know the time and seasons. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 16, that the Master himself shall descend from heaven with the voice of the Master. Right? Those of us who are alive that is coming shall be caught up to meet him in the middle of the air. That is not a rapture call. That is a feast call. Watch. Why? Because the feast cannot start until you spot the light. So you have to look in the sky and see the first glitter or slither of light to say, let the feast begin. You blow the shofar and alert all of the other tribes, very much like they do. I can't even remember the area where Moreh and Ron, they will come out on Friday night and announce the Sabbath. So that community there, they do it on Friday nights with it, but it talks about celebration of the month, blow the shofar. As you do that, you're recognizing the beginning of the month. Trumpets.
Oh, these
Trumpets.
Okay.
But I'm not. But when you do this, Yom Teruah, when you do this, this is a command. So every year, you're doing it as a command, not to wait for the Messiah to come back and say, oh, I see him coming. You're doing it because it's the command to do it. So if you do it, obedience is what? Better than sacrifices. Another parable I'm going to skate by. Hallelujah. So, all right, so this is actually it. So if no man knows the day nor the hour, he's pointing to the Feast of Trumpets. And so how do we know this is the Feast of Trumpets? Let me find that the heavens and the earth shall pass away, but my word shall by no means pass away. Then he gives us the parable. As a man goes abroad, having left his house and given authority to his servant, so that's us. Watch, therefore, for you do not know when the master of the house is coming. Okay. Least coming suddenly, he should find you asleep. And so again, I point back to those who were asleep. He's pointing to something. Did he put them to sleep to fulfill this, and so that we can look at the pattern? Because he came out more than one time. And I think it's about 3 times. I would have to go back and reread. But I know it was more than one time that he said, can y'all not watch with me? 1 hour. So he's really making this emphatic. He's really trying to get us to get this. Where are we when this takes place? In 2 weeks, we have gone away. Can we give Yahweh praise? No. Hallelujah. This is the wise servant. So if you have any questions, again, this is how I